When walking out in the wilderness, it's always important to be aware of your surroundings and of any potential dangers that might occur. However, in places where wild predators are prevalent, anything can happen, and some situations are worse than others, as this story will soon prove. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most iconic nature reserves in the world. Established on March 1, 1872, Yellowstone is actually considered to be the first national park in the entire world. Covering an expansive 2.2 million acres, the park is known for its wildlife and its many geothermal features, especially the Old Faithful geyser. It was established by Ferdinand Hayden, who wanted to create a natural and wild place that people from all over the world could venture to and enjoy the beauty of the natural world. Over 100 years later, and the park is still thriving, allowing people to observe wildlife in an intact ecosystem, explore geothermal areas that contain about half the world's active geysers, and view geologic wonders like the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone River. The park is home to about 67 mammals, 300 species of birds, 5 amphibians, 6 reptiles, and 16 fish species. With so much nature to see, it's no wonder why people from all over the world love to travel to the park. However, one of the park's main attractions is its bears. Whilst there are only actually 2 species of bear in the park, grizzlies and black bears, there are over 1,063 of the animals roaming the park's land. Of the 2 species, grizzlies are the largest, holding more weight and muscle mass than their black counterparts. Due to their immense size and dangerous nature, visitors to the park are warned to stay as far away from the bears as they possibly can. But the most important rule for visitors to the park is to keep all food away from the bears. This is because these animals are attracted to the smell of food and will attack if it means they are able to get a meal. However, despite trying to stick to these rules, sometimes it is difficult to stay away from these animals, as it is impossible to know where they are at all times. This means that incidents between bears and humans do occasionally happen. It is for this reason that visitors to the park are encouraged to look into how to act if they ever find themselves as a victim of a bear attack. It is advised for people to cover their head and neck with their hands and arms, then lay flat on their stomach and spread their legs apart. It is also important to keep a pack on if they have one with them, as it will help protect them during an attack. Finally, the most important thing to do during a bear attack is to stay still and don't make any noise. The aim of all of these actions is to try to convince the bear that the person they are attacking isn't a threat to it or its cubs. Another way that people can protect themselves against a bear attack is to carry around bear spray. This is a deterrent made of red pepper oil, which acts similarly to pepper spray. It inflames the eyes and upper respiratory system of the bear temporarily, allowing a victim of an attack to escape the bear if the spray is used correctly. However, the man in this story decided not to take any bear spray when he went out for his hike in Yellowstone, a decision that would prove to be fatal for him. John Wallace was a 59-year-old man from Chassell, Michigan. He had always loved the great outdoors and would often try to get out into the wilderness whenever he could. In the summer of 2011, he decided that he wanted to go hiking in Yellowstone to get as close to nature as he possibly could. So on the 25th of August, 2011, John set out on the Merry Mountain Trail at about 7:30 in the morning. This trail is one of the most well-known trails of the park, with quite a few people enjoying the natural beauty of the landscape as they walk along the path. Before setting off into the wild, John encountered a chilling warning on the trail, marked with signs cautioning hikers about the presence of bears. Only a few steps along the trail, a fellow hiker, fresh from a close encounter with a bear, earnestly relayed the recent sighting and stressed that he turn around. However, John, confident in his experience and dismissing the warnings, brushed off the advice, considering himself a self-proclaimed expert in handling grizzly encounters. Ignoring the standard safety protocols of carrying bear spray and avoiding solitary hikes, he ventured ahead, convinced that his knowledge surpassed the need for caution. A few hours after starting out, John decided to take a break for something to eat and drink. It was nearing midday, and the older man wanted to find a nice, shady spot to enjoy his lunch and to get out of the midday sun. Little did he know that not too far from where he had stopped, there were 2 bison carcasses. One of the carcasses was 330 meters to the southeast of where John was, whilst the second carcass was about 1.5 miles away. Whilst this usually wouldn't be a problem, what John didn't know was that both of these carcasses had attracted a lot of attention from the local bear population. Only 3 days before John's hike, a different day hiker observed around 9 grizzlies around the second bison carcass. One of these grizzlies even had 2 cubs with her. The 2 deceased animals were the perfect meal for the hungry bears. Unfortunately for John, though, bears can get quite territorial around food, and mama bears can get very protective of their young. The fact that these 2 factors were combined simply spelled disaster for anyone who came across them. But unaware as to what was close by, John began to make his way over to a nearby tree to sit down and enjoy his lunch. It was at this moment that a bear came lumbering around the corner of the trail. Having not seen the bear, John accidentally startled it as he made his way to his chosen resting spot. Immediately, the bear growled loudly. It was at this moment that John noticed the animal and froze in terror. He had nothing on him that could scare the animal away, and in his panic, he forgot what he was supposed to do if he was attacked. Taking John's frozen figure as a challenge, the bear charged at the man. At that moment, John came back to his senses and began to run away from the creature. However, armed with astonishingly powerful forelegs, grizzly bears are the fastest of all the bear species, and they are able to reach speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, a speed that John simply couldn't outrun. Within seconds, the bear had caught up to John and began its assault on him, sinking its 2-inch teeth into the man's arm. John screamed out in pain. Whilst a grizzly bear's teeth aren't too long, their jaws are so strong that they can crush bone with no trouble at all. From that moment on, John's fate was sealed. Try as the man might to escape from the enraged grizzly, the bear was simply too strong and too ferocious for him to do anything. As he cried out in pain and terror, John knew that he wouldn't survive the attack. A few hours later, a young woman and her father were walking the Merry Mountain Trail. The young woman was slightly ahead of her father when, all of a sudden, she spotted a clear bottle with some pin water inside of it. As she walked closer to the bottle, she suddenly saw a pair of legs sticking out from underneath a pile of dirt and forest debris. It was John Wallace. His body had been buried by the bear who had attacked him as a way to preserve it so that the animal could return to it later on to eat. Horrified at her discovery, the young woman and her father immediately called the park staff, who rushed to the scene of the attack. After assessing the scene, John's body was taken to a nearby hospital where it was assessed and determined that he had died from a bear attack. This was the second fatal bear attack at Yellowstone that year, as, almost 2 months earlier, another man had been killed after startling a mother bear and her cubs. Wanting to ensure the safety of future visitors to the park, investigators decided to begin DNA testing bears. By doing this, they would be able to find the one who had killed John and euthanize it to keep other visitors safe. In late September, a female grizzly connected with both John's and the other hiker's attack was captured along with her cubs. The cubs were placed in the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center in West Yellowstone, Montana, where they would be looked after until they could be released back into the wild. However, the 250-pound female bear was euthanized on October 2nd. She was not relocated to the Discovery Center with her cubs, as adult bears removed from the wild often don't cope well in captivity. Whilst this might seem like an extreme measure, the female bear had already attacked and killed 2 people. This clearly showed that she was not scared of humans, which could have led to more attacks in the future. Even though she might not have gotten to live, her cubs were eventually released back into the wild, meaning that her legacy still lived on. John Wallace's body was returned to his family, who held a proper funeral for him, and whilst he is missed by those who loved him, they still keep his memory alive through a passion for nature, just like he had before meeting his terrifying final affliction.